Hometown news with hometown views and the truth that's never told. Pull up a chair and sit right there and hear it all unfold. Voices you trust, stories you know. It's the Doc and Ellie Show.
Hello, friends. Doc Granger coming to you from Thomaston, Georgia. That's about an hour south of Atlanta, and as Mama would say, about 2 hours closer to heaven. You know, if you grew up in a town like ours, you didn't need a calendar to tell you what season it was. You felt it. Friday nights in the fall, you could feel the lights before you ever saw them. Matthews Field glowing against the dark, cleats scraping on concrete, the band warming up somewhere behind the stands. You could hear them. Popcorn and cold air mixing together. That wasn't just football, that was community assembling. And if you graduated from Robert E. Lee High School within a few years of each other, like the men sitting with me today, you didn't just attend those games, you belonged to them. Sandy, Leon, Greg, the Streetlight boys, and our teammate Tony, he's not here today because of a family health emergency. Diane, we wish your mother well. Prayers have been going up since the word hit. All four of these men are from Thomaston, and their parents were of their parents, and so on, all graduates of Robert E. Lee High School. That sounds Southern, doesn't it? It was, and it is. These three here today graduated within 3 years of each other, close enough that their memories don't just line up, they overlap. Same teachers, same principals, same coaches, same pep rallies, same cheerleaders, same Friday nights in Matthews Field. They remember homecoming week, hallways decorated in the school, whispers about who's going to steady and with whom, nervous hands adjusting ties before the sweetheart dance or the prom. And Sandy, when I say slow song, what's the first one that comes to mind?
Unchained Melody.
Oh, the Righteous Brothers. And who was that first dance with?
That was with my sweetheart, Anya,
And where?
at the, I can't remember if that was a homecoming dance or what it was.
Unchained Melody with his sweetheart. But he doesn't remember where. Was it a band playing or a DJ playing a 45 or
Yeah, I think then.
DJ? They remember the Christmas parade gathered around the square, and so do I. Cold fingers, floats built by people you knew, churches represented, local businesses throwing candy off the floats, little kids scrambling in the street while Mom and Daddy waved from the sidewalk. That parade did not feel small, it felt important. And then there was ROTC, uniform press, shoes shine, formation straight, cadence and echoing across the parking lot. For some, ROTC was discipline. For some, direction. For some, the first whisper of something bigger. Service, responsibility. Adulthood arriving sooner than anyone ever expected. With us today is Commander Fowler. When men share not just a town, but the same years in that town, they share a rhythm. They remember when the square wasn't just a traffic flow, it was where you cruised. Loop after loop, windows down, AM radio humming, headed out to or back from Piggy Park. You measured time by songs on the dial. You measured courage by how long you stood outside before knocking on her door for the first date. You measured freedom by how much gas was left in the tank after Friday night. We'd all pitch in to fill her up to get through the weekend. How much was a gallon of gas, do you think, back in those days, Greg? Any idea?
Oh, back then, usually about 31.9, something like that. It would every now and go up a penny or two, but
Greg's a finance guy and remembers well somewhere around 32 cents a gallon. And when the street lights flickered on, that wasn't decoration, that was instruction. Wrap it up, head home. Tomorrow's coming, whether you're ready or not. Somewhere between Matthews Field on Friday night, homecoming week, church on Sunday, and even Wednesdays, ROTC drills during the week, Childhood stepped aside. Adulthood didn't slam the door, it eased in. First job, first loss, first decision that carried weight. And then college, military, the mill whistle before sunrise. Those were not hashtags, those were crossroads. And now this week, Doc and Ellie's podcast isn't about pretending everything back then was perfect. Every generation struggles. But there's something steady about a shared memory. When men who walk the same hallways sit down together, they don't need cue cards. They've got landmarks. Matthews Field under the lights, the square, the Christmas parade, the ROTC cadence, cheap gas. Classmates whose names still rise easily in the surface. And when they start telling stories, something happens. The town gets stitched back together for a moment, not the buildings, but the people. Because growing up in Thomaston, Georgia, wasn't something just Sandy did, or Leon, or Greg, or Tony, or even Doc. It's something an entire generation did, side by side. And when you listen, you may find yourself remembering your own Friday night football, your own parade, your own lap around the square, your own moment when the streetlight came on and you realized you had decisions to make. So we're not rushing, we're not scrolling, we're taking a lap. We're sitting under the lights one more time. Fellas, welcome to Doc and Ellie's podcast. Sandy, you're not an Air Force captain today. Leon, you're not a 32-year-old serving member of the school board. Greg, you're not a financial expert. The light's on. This time you don't have to hurry home. That matters. But before we get started, we have our own little Doc and Ellie ritual. A step back that gives us a little to think about. And we're going to start with Leon in a minute. Leon, who taught you to tie your shoelaces?
I don't know, but I will expand. At that time,
Expand on the unknowing.
right.
Good.
At that time, there were three other people in the household: my dad, my mom, and my older sister. She's only 1 year older than me, but I'm pretty sure she jumped in and helped teach me. Don't remember other than that, mother or dad, or don't remember exactly when that occurred.
I understand. Did your sister help you learn how to dress also?
Don't know.
And if
Again,
you did, you wouldn't tell me. So who taught you how to live?
I have several answers to that question. Early on, naturally, my parents. When I was my first day of first grade, I was on a school bus, and another young first grader got on next, and the bus was empty except for me and maybe my sister. And he said, "Can I sit beside you?" And his name was Ansley Williams. We called him Andy. And later on, I would say after high school, or maybe during high school, he taught me to live. Not necessarily the right way. But, and then finally, Jesus Christ.
Who drove the bus that morning? Do you remember?
Mr. Alcee Partridge, who is Tony's uncle.
Tony Chastain?
Yes.
Sandy, who taught you to tie your shoelaces?
I think along with Leon there, I was blessed to have three people in the house that helped raise me, as we say sometimes there. And that was my mom, my dad, and my grandmother. And it was done by that village of people there, those three people there.
The village people.
Yes. My grandmother came when I was born to go stay a couple of weeks to help mother. And 20 years later, when she went to the nursing home, she ended that visit. So I was also blessed, in addition to good parents, but having a grandmother there who was a widowed grandmother to live with me, and she had quite an influence on my life also.
Great memories.
Great memories. Yes, sir.
Who taught you how to live?
I certainly would. My model was my dad, who was a good man, and I always felt he was a good man. But as far as then day-to-day she had so many different sayings and all that she was from a different generation. The grandmother I was talking about there, and so she had quite an influence there on me because she was the one there when I got home from school in the afternoon. Mom and Dad were still at work. She was the one that when I was a little boy that I slept in the feather bed with her, and she just always had little bits of wisdom to share with you, and she was country lady, grew up on a farm, and she just had a lot of wisdom to share.
Any favorite sayings from your grandma that you remember?
Yeah, when a situation comes up, I remember one of her sayings, but one of them that sticks with me is, son, every thought that comes into your mind does not need to be said. And I think that would be wise for a number of our prominent people in this country to remember.
Maybe just for this session, we'll put that aside. Any thought that comes to mind is okay today.
Okay.
Thanks, Andy. Greg Wilson,
Yes, sir.
you and I go way back
Yes, we do.
and ended up right here on Doc and Ellie's Pub, and it's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's a small world.
So those two questions. Who taught you to tie your shoelaces?
My mother tried. Mama tried. Mama was a saint, and her patience was not her strong suit. But I was staying while she and Dad worked at the Moth Mill office with my grandmother. Everybody called Mama Sally. Everybody called her Mama Sally. She was kind of a country woman, which is another story for another day. But she had no trouble at all teaching me how to tie my shoe. I mean, I just did exactly what she said. I think she had something a little going on. She might have read some cards or something. I don't know, but she didn't have any trouble. It was not that hard at all.
It was somewhat of an engineering feat, though, wasn't it?
Oh God, I don't know. All I know is it wasn't tied, and then it was.
Yeah.
And that muscle memory kicked in and kept doing it. Yes.
Who taught you how to live?
My grandparents, all four of them. My mom, like I said, she was a saint, as her folks were. My dad's folks were a little more common. Cotton millers, good people, salt of the earth. And I just watched them, but when it came down to it, Dad was our recreation director. We spent a lot of time together. After he was through with his duties, he'd say, come on, let's ride the village. We lived in a mill village, and owned by B.F. Goodrich, and then the house was sold to us. But anyway, we would ride the village. He said, I want you to remember this. He said, you look at all these people sitting on their porches drinking their tea. They've had a hard day at work. He said, I want you to remember this. These are happy people. He said, they manage well. Everything that they have, they own. They owe nothing or very little. And he said, but you just remember this. And then as I got older and I would ride my bicycle through the village, I would see these folks then. But he taught me, appreciate where you are. And I have always lived and loved that. And that's why somebody says, you got to live a good life. No, I am. So he's the one who really put that in my head. You knew him. You knew Coach.
I knew him very well. And I saw him quite a bit after I left Thomaston. And of course, when I found out where he was buried, that's one of the first stops I made when I came back home.
Thank you for that.
To pay my respects to.
Well, he thought the world of you. I know that.
I'm sorry.
He told me one day. Now I'm gonna embarrass you a little bit. He told me one day, and he says, "You see that guy right there?" I said, "You mean Michael?" We called you Michael. He said, "Yeah." He says, "If you want to model yourself at somebody, you watch him." So that's got to embarrass you.
Well, no, and the only difference that would make in life is you would be standing here, and I would be standing there. That's all.
Well,
One free for all, and then we're going to jump right in. and get things started. What's the dumbest thing any of you or all of you did in your growing up days in Thomaston that you're kind of proud your mama never knew about, or your coach daddy? What comes to mind?
Mine didn't actually happen in Thomaston, it happened in Woodland. But it began in Marietta. And I'm going to change the last names to protect
protect the
guilty. And one was this guy, Bruce Shifty. And there was Al Terry Ding Ding. And anyway, we were sitting around Bruce's trailer in around Marietta, Woodstock, drinking beer. It was Labor Day weekend, and that's dumb enough right on its own. But then we decided we're going to go to Panama City. So we got in the car, I want to say sometime in the afternoon. We got home. I had to stop by my home to tell my parents or something. And when I did, my little brother said, I want to go. And he was 15. We were all 20. But the plan was for him to drive so we could continue drinking our beer. And then we went to the plantation, Greg, George Wilson's place, and hung out there until, I guess it was almost midnight when we left Thomaston. Got to Woodland. Did not know Woodland had a cop at all. But they pulled us over. My little brother's driving. And the reason they pulled us over was because two guys they had picked up for something were in the back seat of a police car, and they told them that my car was stolen from them. So they stopped us. Well, looking at the license, he saw the fact that my brother only had a learner's permit. Somebody had to be 21 sitting front seat beside him. I was 20. And Al and Terry were sort of asleep on the ice chest in the back. And I was awake, not completely sober, mind you, but I could pass, I guess. Anyway, he said, well, look, either you got to drive or you got to park it. And I said, oh, I guess I'll drive. So we made it. And I think it's pretty dumb. I don't think we ever told my mom.
Mama never knew that?
No.
Any idea how many trips you made to Panama City after that?
After that, not too many, because we sort of set in on going to Daytona Beach. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to say 2 or 3.
Yeah. Any other, Sandy?
I thought about this one a good bit, and there was not any real significant, quote, dumb things I did. A lot of little dumb things that I did, but I guess probably the one that I got in the most trouble about was when I was at Lee Grammar, actually Lee Junior High. Then they built the new junior high wing off the main building there, Little Lee we called it, and some of the guys got together and thought it'd be pretty neat to see if they plugged up all the toilets in the boys' room there with putting rows of toilet paper in them, plugged them up, and then started flushing them to see if we could flood the place. And I knew better. I wasn't. I didn't have my. I wasn't involved in planning it, but it seemed like something I wanted to see. That could be pretty interesting. I thought. So I hung around. And we made the biggest mess you've ever seen.
Literally.
Literally. And there was one male teacher there at the school there, in addition to the male principal there, Mr. Hazelwood. But Coach McAbee, Coach Clint McAbee was there, taught there and coached. And so all of us got the raft. And that was the first and I believe the only paddling I ever had at school. And as I always said, the way Mom and Dad raised me, if I ever got in trouble at school, I was in a whole lot more trouble when I got home. Yeah. The trouble had only just begun when I got in trouble at school for any reason or other there. So
So did I miss it? Did your mother ever know that story?
I don't know whether she did. Daddy did though, and I got a little bit more. Daddy heard. You know, Daddy knew pretty much everybody in town and where to get back to Daddy. So.
You mentioned McAbee, and boy, we were blessed with great coaches, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
Greg's,
Coach Dawkins,
Greg's daddy.
you know, he wasn't a teacher, but he was part of the
Yeah.
city recreation program, and part of his day was spent there at the school. And during our recesses, he'd be the one to organize the softball game, the touch football, the whatever, you know, that we did at lunch. So Coach Dawkins was there a fair amount of his day, some of his day anyway. And then, of course, Clint was there all day. And then Mr. Hazelwood, the principal, was there all day, of course.
Still remember standing at Weaver Park, Coach Dawkins, I could overhear him talking to my daddy saying, no, let him play football. I'll take care of him. Because my mother was concerned,
Yeah.
as mothers are, about a sport like football. Coach Dawkins, Coach Cavan. Greg?
I did think of something after we talked yesterday a little bit, but later on, I'm going to start with the end. My dad told me when you mentioned when we were 15 years old, I was starting to ride around with some of my buddies who, you know, they were 16, 17, and Dad told me one day, says, you know, your friends, said, you're going to be around some folks who will be drinking. He said, now, when you leave my side, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. He said, I'll find out about it. And he did. He knew what everybody did, all us kids. But he said, I'll find out about it. He said, but when you leave my side, there's nothing I can do about it. He said, I'm just going to ask you one thing. He said, whatever you do, don't embarrass your mother. I turned into a puddle when he said that. I'd do anything. I tell you, my mom was a saint, and you wouldn't mess with her. Plus, Dad was about 6'5" and 230, and had that John Wayne look about him. And so he, and I took after my mama's side of the family, obviously, and so I didn't want to hurt that. But we did do something, but it was Dad's fault. Now, it's Coach Wilson's fault, because he was tied up with a school. I went to community center school, which was out in Silvertown, which is north side of Thomaston, and on the Mill Village. We were studying Nazi Germany. My dad now, he worked for the mill. The school building was owned by the mill, and he was in charge of maintenance, making sure the lunchroom ran well. That's what he did besides his recreation duty, among other things. He wore many hats. But he'd come over in the morning sometime. We'd be standing outside, and it was in the springtime, about May, and we've been studying Nazi Germany. And so I had taken a flag he brought back. It was a German swastika flag, pretty good sized flag. And we'd already put up the American flag. Teachers had come in, but it was between that time and time for the bell to ring. He says, hey, you bring that flag? I said, yeah. I said, why don't you run it up the flagpole? So down came the stars and stripes, and pointed to swastika. And he went on into school, forgot about it, I guess, and we forgot about it. We got out there playing, doing something, and we forgot about it and get into school. And when we were down in Miss Newton's room, y'all didn't know Miss Newton. We called her Miss Fig. Reckon why? Fig Newton. And she was tough. And we were down there, and I heard the phone ring way down in the office, in Miss Underwood's office. Miss Underwood's like little cannonballs on toothpicks, and but she was a force to be dealt with. And I heard her yell, what? And that's way down the hall. And I knew, God, I forgot about that flag. And that flag was still flying. And you hear her, doom, 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 doom. down there. She came to the door, and put her hands on the hip and said, Greg Wilson, come with me. Ronald Fagan, come with me. He said, I didn't do nothing. Ronald Fagan always did everything. He said, I didn't do anything. I said, Ronald didn't do anything. He wasn't even there. He said, sit down, Ronald. So he took me down there. Now, Miss Underwood had this paddle, except for one to paddle. It's about that much of a razor strop. Remember the old razor strops? I had one of that with a baseball bat handle on it. And she'd swing it like a samurai warrior. And I've seen big boys climb bookcases try to get away from it. And so I knew I was getting mine. She said, lean across there. So I was leaning across there. She says, and I'm waiting. I just knew my life was about to end. I waited. Nothing happened. I glanced over there. That was my big old dad. And she's like this right here. She's looking over her shoulder. He had that thing like this. He said, Miss Underwood, that was my fault. I put them up to that. And she'd had me throw the flag in the trash can. He said, Greg, get your flag and go to class. And that's all he said. And later on, he came by the room, and he called me up there. He said, your mama don't know nothing about this.
She never will.
Yeah, she did. And she laughed. She wouldn't have laughed that day, but she did laugh.
Well, it seems like, though, you were kind of schooled. You said you knew what to do. You knew what the routine was.
Oh, yeah.
You'd been there before?
Been where?
With that paddle coming down.
Oh, I had not. No, I had not been the recipient of that particular.
You imagine
that particular thing. No, but I'd seen it done. Wayne Hendricks, the late Wayne Hendricks, to tell you all about it.
Yes. Wayne was fleet-footed. He was a fast boy when he took those shoes off.
And he also had a really nice DA going on, man.
Yes, he did. And I don't know if we'll be able to do it today, but at some point, because there will be other segments, I want you to tell me the origins of that double wing backfield that your daddy put on the field. That was interesting. We'll be right back. Doc and Ellie's Pubcast coming to you from you know where. Thomaston, Georgia. Streetlight boys are with us today. As we jump back in, lead off with a question that might have to dig a little for the memory, but when you hear Robert E. Lee High School, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Anybody jump in?
Well, I was proud to have my picture in the hallway of the military building. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I was really proud of, most proud, was being named Mr. R.E. Lee, because that was voted on by the students. And I don't know how I did that, but you were I guess they liked me.
You were the commandant? The commander?
That too, yeah. That's why my picture was in the military building.
Yeah. And that was an assignment. That was not, you weren't voted.
No.
Yeah, you were selected because of your superior
it was, I think he was captain at the time, Captain Harris. I don't remember his first name.
What comes to mind?
I think probably what set R.E. Lee apart from other schools that we were familiar with in the area and all was the ROTC program. Mm-hmm. It was, and of course we were beginning to get more heavily involved during the years I was there in Vietnam, and we were pretty serious about the ROTC program there. You know, when you finished 3 years of the ROTC at R.E. Lee back in those years, you had done a fair portion of, at least with drill and weapons and that kind of, you've done a fair amount of what would be part of basic training when going in the U.S. Army. So they were pretty serious about it, and it certainly, of course, due to the requirements, appearance requirements and all required by the military and all, it kind of set you apart. You had the kind of the white sidewall haircut and such as that. But especially for the males, I think that was one of the things that kind of set going to school at R.E. Lee apart from a lot of other high schools.
Great.
Again, back to the ROTC. Another thing too, I remember when I first went, I looked up on the portico up front. It says R.E. Lee, and I asked my dad. I said, "Why does that not say Robert E. Lee?" He said, "Because he said it's all right for you to call it Robert E. Lee High School." He said, because a lot of you are going to hear that a lot from the announcers at the football games, and we did. But he said the real name of the school is R.E. Lee Institute. I said, "Well, it's got to be Institute. That sounds like a crazy house." And, anyway, he said, "Okay," but the thing that really got me was the first military parade, ROTC parade, when they assigned ranks. And they come out there, the band's playing, the flags are flying. Now, and when the flags flew, you had like 4 flags. You had the R.E. Lee flag, which was a gray flag, had gold fringe on it with a picture of Robert E. Lee on his horse Traveler. You had a Georgia flag, an American flag, and then you had a Confederate battle flag. And they were playing Dixie. I said, "Take me now, Lord." And we actually had a patch. I have one at home on our sleeve on the uniform. The first time I saw that, I was a freshman and we weren't in ROTC yet, so it was really an impact. But the patch is a stylized Confederate flag. It was not a bad thing then. So coming right after the centennial of the war between the states. So that was a big one. And who can forget Friday nights?
Let's go Friday nights and move to the square. Who's driving? What song is playing on the radio? Who are you hoping to run into? And where did you guys park? And I'm not talking the temporary, what do they call it? The 3-minute parking or whatever. Where were the submarine races? Let's start on the square. There you are, Sandy. You're driving. Who's with you?
Well, mine was kind of 2 distinct phases there, before my sweetheart and after my sweetheart. Before my sweetheart, I was typically driving, and I would have my friend Jim Fowler and Edwin O'Neill and maybe 1 or 2 others of us there, and we would each get together and we'd put in a quarter in the pot and go to the Scene gas station and fill it up with gas, and we could ride all night. And no telling how many laps we'd make around the square, but we'd make the route. We'd go down and see who was at Piggy Park. We'd go out to the ranch house, ride through there, see who was there. We'd already spent our quarters, so we couldn't hardly afford to stop and buy a hamburger or anything like that. But it was just making the rounds and all, and sometimes you might actually stop on the square and get out, stretch your legs, and somebody else would pull up beside you there, and some of the other friends pull up. Before you knew it, there'd be 6 or 8 cars there, and you just be talking about the world situation, of course. Asking where all the girls were, who's seen who, whatever. But that was a typical Friday or Saturday night back in that time.
Pre-sweetheart.
Pre-sweetheart. Then after that, it was myself and this sweet little girl that I had a crush on there my senior year, and basically I would ride around some there waiting on her to get off. She worked at the Ritz Theater, my buddies called her the queen of the popcorn machine. She could pop some popcorn.
I remember her working there. I remember that.
And she would get off not too long after the second movie on a Friday or Saturday night, and then I would either go into the movie and we'd watch the movie together, or I would pick her up, and then we would many times go out to, you remember the Pizza House?
Yeah, Pizza House.
Norris's Pizza House. And we'd get us a pizza burger, hamburger with pizza seasoning on it.
Oh.
It was so good. And then I'd take her home, and we'd sit on her front porch for a while before I'd leave her and go home.
Yeah, what was your wedding day?
What's that?
What was your wedding day?
We both went off to college. She went off to the University of Georgia, and I went off to Georgia Tech. So you can figure that we figured that romance wasn't going to last all that long then. And but we were home on the weekends, still going steady, dating each other. And our sophomore year, we got married.
How many years?
She transferred to Georgia State in Atlanta, and that was 59 years ago now.
Great memories.
Wonderful memories.
Leon?
Okay, let's see, start by right around the square. Now, at the time, I was only 15. And my parents thought it would be a good idea if I rode with my sister and my cousin, Jane Butts. Jane was the only one. She was 2 months older than my sister. So Jane had the license. So we were riding around in her daddy's mail car. He was a mail carrier, my Uncle Walter. And anyway, I was supposed to be a chaperone. I was not much of a chaperone. In fact, I didn't tell on him or anything. And which reminded me of my little brother. He would bribe my sister. She would go off with a gentleman that was too old for her. And he said, if you don't pay me a quarter, I'm gonna tell Mom and Daddy. Well, after some time of quarters, she got tired of it. So he went straight to Mother and Daddy and told them. So and I just lost him in this past July, and that's really tough on me. Because he was my baby brother, the same one that drove to Woodland. He rode with us to Panama City. And then as far as the submarine, Piggy Park, but very rarely with me, and I had very little luck. And
Couldn't find the place?
no, I knew where it was. I couldn't find the right girl, and I dated very little. My thing was to go around and try to pick somebody up. Piggy Park, Square, Ranch House. Now I had some pretty good luck at the Ranch House, and not all the way to home base, but maybe first base. And so I kept my virginity quite a while. And
Never too late to get lucky.
right.
Little TMI.
And nowadays they call it hooking up, I think. But anyway, that's what I was trying to do, hook up, and like I say, just didn't have a lot of luck with that. But I did have some luck.
Does anything come to mind that a secret that everybody knew at Robert E. Lee without anybody writing it down? Things that maybe the teachers knew, but they would kind of stay out of your way. Was there any like secret codes or secret groups or people knew what some were doing, but it was known to keep your mouth shut? What was that like? Anything come to mind? Social lines, Friday night rituals.
Well, I know my friend Andy Williams thought it'd be cool to leave campus at lunch and go to Herschel's and eat. And so He did for quite a while and got away with it, but eventually Coach Wallace Rhodes learned about it. He was like the assistant principal. Well, he was standing on the front lawn of R. Lee there and nailed Andy. So he got caught. I think the only other thing that's sort of a secret, a friend of mine, Steve Hudson, and I had, I think we had study hall, 6th period. And so we would go by the office up there and tell the ladies we were going to get a haircut. Was that okay? And we'd go to pool room, shoot pool.
So that was the code.
Right.
Was there a better hamburger than the pool room?
No.
One thing I remember was that when a couple of guys wanted to square off and start to fight, everybody, pull them apart, and everybody would go, only guys, would go to the gym. I'm thinking about the new gym now. Would go to the new gym, and the coach would come out there with 2 pairs of boxing gloves, 16-ounce boxing gloves, and the guys would make a big ring around that. Girls were not allowed. Some guys from the military department, the real military guys, they'd come down there and turn those guys loose for about 3 to 5 minutes and just let them flail at each other. And by the time they're done, they're best friends. They go out there together, arm around each other, and all that. Their faces all red where they, number one, got overexerted. Number two, they got punched a little bit, nothing hurt, like hitting with pillows. And so that's how we solved that. That was an unspoken code. Nobody said a word. When these guys squared off, it all of a sudden got real quiet, and everybody just went. And so that's the one thing that just popped into my mind.
Homecoming king and queen, was that a big thing?
I don't remember it that big.
Not to me.
I don't even remember.
Hey, wait a minute, you never asked me that other question. That other question about riding around the square.
Yeah.
Usually with Bobby Alexander's mama's '56 Cadillac, Bobby and Daryl McGlon and some of us just riding around. And as far as what girl, it could have been any. Later on, or some of the time, my dad had a sock hop out at Silvertown at a community center auditorium. We'd go out there after the ball game. He'd started up then. Sometimes the high school would have a dance in the old gym, and so we did that stuff. And I'd say the outer ring of Piggy Park would be mainly a lot of submarines out there. So that's where it goes. It was dark out there, and it was safe. Cops came through fairly regularly, but they wouldn't bother anybody. As long as everybody's behaving themselves, that's fine with them. So it was a pretty special place. But any small town was a special place back then.
People watching us from outside this area, around the world. And remember the song Last Kiss. Last Kiss was made famous by J. Frank Wilson and the Cavaliers. But you know a little more about its history. Started right here, didn't it?
Yes. I understand that the couple, I've heard their names before, they had been to church at East Thomaston Baptist Church. This is how I heard it years ago. And it had come a misty rain, just light misty rain. The slicky, it slicks the road up real good. It just gets the oil all, and there was a lot of oil in the roads then. Cars weren't the same. And they had been out just to get a hamburger or something out at the ranch house. You didn't have to bid submarine races to go to the ranch house, but that's where they were, and they were coming back into town. And out on South Green Street, there's a curve, and it goes kind of down, and it has an outer bank to it instead of banking up like that. And they came around like that, and the car slid off into the ditch. And the girl was ultimately killed in that wreck. And the song was written by a local performer, Wayne Cochran of Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders, and my buddy Darryl McGloin's older brother, Bobby McGloin, was in on the writing, and there was another individual, and I don't remember his name.
Wayne had a great career.
Yeah.
Saw him many times. When did you first realize you weren't a kid anymore?
I think I was probably about 50.
Last week.
Yeah, but that's it. It took a while. It took a while. I mean, you know, I'd been in college, in the fraternity. You don't want to grow up then. You want to stay there, and I stayed there a long time. So I don't know, probably about 35.
Seems like we're in a nostalgia phase right now, and every generation has gone through it. I don't think it's always tied with conflict or war, but it seems like somehow they seem to go hand in hand. Nostalgia for me, and probably for you, is the era we're talking about, the 60s. Born in the 40s, post World War II, grew up in the 50s, on to school in the 60s, and then on to school or military or whatever. What we see more and more in the emails that come to us at 360 are from younger people asking questions about the era we're talking about. I'm wondering what has spawned it now. You're probably seeing in the local newspaper, actually in the local Facebook page, an upsurge in pictures of the past of Thomaston. Furniture stores, places that are no longer here, restaurants. Remember the Blue Goose Cafe? Anybody remember that? That was next door to the Ritz, right?
Next door to Diana Shops, which was next door to the Ritz.
There were two restaurants on the square.
Thomaston
Cafe and the Blue Goose Cafe.
Any thoughts about that?
Each row of stores had a drugstore with a soda fountain in it too. You remember the soda fountains?
Okay.
Yep, and they had a lot of jewelry stores.
Yep, a lot of jewelry. Yep.
So this is nostalgia for you.
Yeah.
Another nostalgic thing, Sandy's dad had to go to a hardware store. That's how I got to know the mayor. And Mr. Charles was a sweet man. I thought the world of him.
You know, back in those days there, before the Home Depots and everything like that, people go to the hardware store and they'd spend 35 cents and get $35 worth of advice on how to fix something.
Whether you ask for it or not.
Yeah.
And people would bring in a cardboard box with 18 pieces in it there that was their faucet. And wanting to, you know, wound up buying 3 washers and whatever, and $35 worth of advice on how to get it all back together. You know.
Your dad had the hardware
He
store?
did that kind of
and
thing.
where was
my
he
dad.
originally located?
He originally got his interest in the hardware business as a young boy, high school, and a little later working for Mr. Kilpatrick in the hardware store in town. But he wanted to start his own store up, and he wound up where his store there was in 2 or 3 buildings there that were across from the old A&P supermarket in Thomaston, and across from what then new in latter years there was a Family Dollar store in there on North Center Street, and he built a good business there, and again a lot of it by selling people 35 cents worth of merchandise and explaining to them what to do with it.
Let's start at the pool room and just kind of do a visual run around the square, some of those stores. What was next door to the pool room?
Was that one of the places my wife used to buy clothes? Was it Noel's or Shirley's there next to the pool room? Noel's? Yeah, dress shop?
There was a Butler's Shoes
Butler's?
there because it was in like a mosaic at the entrance of it. One of those right in there, and the Knowles is on down a little bit further, not much farther. But,
Shirley's and Noel's were two of the dress shops, and
Neil Loge
Neil Logue was on the
other side.
other side of the square,
Does-
the
does
north
any-
side of the square.
Does anybody remember Neil O's where you buy shoes?
Buster-
They had the
Buster Brown, they had a machine.
They had a machine that would X-ray,
X-ray
your
your
feet.
feet.
And
yeah, what could go wrong?
Yeah.
O.W. Jones.
Debbie Jones
Oh,
on
yeah.
the corner of there next to Maxwell's Dime Store.
We had Maxwell's and
McCollum's.
McCollum's.
And
Moore's.
Moore's.
Dime
Moore's.
Store.
McClellan's. That was pharmacy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
we had the great hotel, the Hotel Upson, or the
Hotel
Upson Hotel.
Yep.
What did your first car teach you? And who scared you more? Her daddy or your daddy?
my daddy. I didn't have a lot of dates back then, so I didn't go to the door.
I hope that changes for you.
Well, I'm not supposed to date now. My sweetheart's over there. And she don't think I treat her as a sweetheart sometimes, but I do love her.
And what was your first car?
Corvair, 1964,
Uh-huh.
4-speed. It only had 110 horsepower, but the thing that I was proud of, it would do 1 mile per hour for every horsepower. It would do 110.
Eventually.
Yeah, it didn't take it too long.
Okay.
It had a little bit of get up go.
There you go.
Not like the muscle cars, which I had a couple of those later on. I had a Plymouth with 383, and then it was 66, and then I had a 1970 Dodge Super B. It was also 383 4-barrel and all that.
We all have a car that we wish we still had. What was yours?
Probably the Corvair.
What was your first car?
The first car I actually drove regularly was the family car, a 1960 Chevrolet Bel Air. And then my first car that my wife and I actually bought, that was in our name, bought with our money, was a 1969 Pontiac Le Mans. Very similar to the GTO, the same body and everything. Vinyl top, remember the vinyl tops? And two-tone, light green, dark green vinyl top. Had plenty of engine in it. It wasn't as big as the GTO, but had enough, plenty of cubic inches in it to get you in trouble if, it would go. And it was a two-door coupe, and we loved that car. We were so proud of our first car.
Yeah. Great.
I had a hot rod, 51 4 with a Chevrolet 327 Holly 4-barrel. Hers just come out with a 4-speed shifters, and that thing was fixed up. I bought it as a hot rod. That thing was so hard to drive. I drove it about 9 months, and we sold it. And I got my dad's car. You might even remember this car. 1960 Pontiac Bonneville Sport Coupe convertible. First bucket seats I ever saw. Those bucket seats were that wide.
Yeah.
And they had a space in them like this. You could knock the windshield off of that thing, put plywood across the cockpit area, and turn it into an aircraft carrier. I have a picture of me at 15 sitting in it with my drums in the back of the car, and Dad's about halfway through a yard. It's across the street from the house. Our house is in the background. The front end of the car and the back end of the car are not in the picture. It had a 389, and we would go to Gordon in it. After I graduated, we'd go to Gordon, 110, 105, 110. And Andy, what's his name, was State Patrol. Andy Andrews would be sitting there at the rock. He'd just wave at us. Because we go in convoy, it'd be like 4 or 5 cars, and hit 100 and above, going to Gordon. So I wish I had that one back. It was a burgundy leather interior. Whew. I wish you hadn't brought that up.
Who from your graduating class do you still think about?
For me, it's 3 girls that were killed in a car accident, automobile, coming back from Myrtle Beach. And I was talking about dating. I was supposed to have a date with one of those girls, Dotsie Purdue, when she got back. And so that just really shook us up. So I remember them and want everyone to remember them, because they were good girls, smart girls, pretty girls.
Names?
Dixie Waller.
Familiar name.
Dotsie Purdue and Barbara Crawley. Her dad was city judge. Harry Crawley, attorney. And then driving the car was Diane New, and of course she survived. I think she has recently passed. No, her sister has, but I think she's in pretty bad shape. And riding and injured pretty badly was Jan Smith. And I know she has passed. So I just remember that time and those people especially.
Who comes to mind, Sandy?
I guess of our graduating class in my years at Lee, Jim Fowler would probably be the one that I would think would first come to my mind. There was just due to a lot of hours of practicing basketball together, and right then he was riding shotgun, or either I was riding shotgun for him as we circled the square.
Yep.
So spent a fair amount of our high school time together there.
Jimmy and I played on the same Little League baseball team, Upson Laundry.
Jim was a good athlete.
Yes.
And he was a good, I was not a good athlete. I was a blue-collar basketball player. I always kidded Jimmy.
You played
there.
4 years, though.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I always kidded Jimmy there, and I made a career out of putting his misses back.
Yeah.
He said, well, you didn't have much of a career then, did you?
Yeah. You guys about the same height?
Yeah, Jim was a little bit shorter than I was. We had a big old basketball team for that era there. Woody Woodall, who was mainly a football player, but he was quite a brute under the backboards, and he and I were the 2 tall guys on the team. We were 6'5", which was big for those days, for a 1965 basketball team. So Woody and I were the big guys, and Jim was pretty tall, but he could actually dribble and he could actually shoot.
Yeah.
Woody and I'd get under the goal, and it'd look something like volleyball. Yeah. He'd miss, and I'd rebound, and I'd put it back up. I'd miss, and he'd get it. And, it looked almost like we were playing volleyball instead of basketball.
Ronnie Lowe's a big guy, but he was just football.
He was football. Yeah. He didn't play basketball.
Who comes to mind? From your graduating class?
Seniors, I didn't hang around with my senior class that much. I was either hanging around with Leon's class or with the class after that had already graduated. So I was in the band called the Premiers, and we had a guitar player. Bobby Alexander, I hung around him a lot, and Darryl McGlon, Tommy Farr. Now, Tommy was our class, but he went to Gatesville. So as far as RE Lee guys or gals, I didn't have much time to date because we played every weekend, Friday and Saturday night. My dates consisted of asking a young lady out for a Saturday matinee, to go to the movie, go to the Ritz.
Was matinee, was that a code word?
Nope, it was just straight up matinee. Afternoon picture show. So, and that would, so these girls could potentially have 2 dates in one day, and I'm sure some of them did. So
we're going to slide into the lightning round, and you guys have been great. Just a quick answer to these questions. The best hamburger in town in 1965.
Vet Burger. Veterans Club Vet Burger. About that thick, about yay big around, 75 cents all day long.
Pool room hamburger, of course, but then that pizza burger that I
Pizza
talked
burger.
about,
Yep, that too.
was special for me.
Probably the pool room, and but my daddy had a grocery store, and so did Barry Cook's dad, Cook's, and Cook sold him the hamburger meat, and my daddy claimed that he added chicken gizzards to
Yeah.
make it
Can't do without the
cost
gizzards.
less. But I got thinking about it. I love chicken gizzards,
Yeah.
so that's
Might
probably
be
what
part
made
of
them good.
The coach you feared the most.
That's pretty easy.
That's an easy one for you, isn't it?
But you know what? There was no need. There was no need at all. I'm talking about my dad. And we all called him Coach. I called him Coach. At home, he was Daddy. But once we got in that car and we're gone, he was Coach. And like I said, he's a pretty good-sized fella. And I didn't want to disappoint him either. I mentioned earlier that I didn't want to disappoint my mom. And didn't want to disappoint him. He was a tough taskmaster, but a great example.
I never feared Coach Wilson because he was a coach. He was a teacher. He was a mentor.
Yep.
We learned an awful lot. And of course, during my last couple of years here, Coach Wilson's assistant was Tommy Purdue.
Right.
And learned some things from Tommy.
One of the things I used to love to watch Dad do when he coached junior high, he coached 22 years and lost 12 ball games in 22 years. He hated to lose. But he would get these guys and he would tell them exactly what he wanted them to do, how he wanted them to block and all this kind of stuff. And blocking was the main thing. And they would miss a block and he'd call them over there. He'd grab them by the face mask, put his face right in there. You need to do so-and-so. You understand me, boy?
Yep.
When he said, you understand me, boy, you better understand him. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And he'd turn him loose, and next time they'd go and do it, he'd say, come here. And the kid come over there. He said, that's what you do. Didn't that feel good? Didn't that feel good? And that's how he coached. Mr. Holston one day, he was the superintendent. He was out there, he said, George, right over from where we were, you could see a water tower. He said, I believe you could tell these guys to go up there and jump off that water tower. And he said, I believe they'd fight each other, be the first one to do it. He could really inspire a bunch. But fear him? Yeah, we feared him coming to wing sprint times. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to filibuster.
Great stories. Sandy?
Not fear so much, but respect and all was, for me, was Coach Wallace Rhodes. And I only had Coach Rhodes for 1 year. I wish I'd had him my whole 4 years. But also not far behind it because I wasn't a natural. I didn't play varsity ball for 4 years. I was Coach Johnson and Ronald Johnston. And I was tall, so they thought I ought to be able to, like in my freshman year, I was tall, and they thought, this boy ought to be playing basketball. Mm-hmm. I think they wondered whether they made the right decision when they actually got me on the court out there. They were going to teach me how to shoot a layup first, and then they realized they first better teach me how to hold the ball before I drop it. And so Coach Johnson had his work cut out for him to try to make a ball player out of me. But eventually he and then Coach Rhodes did, and I respect both of those men.
What was special about them that you are remembering it today?
Well, they were both old school.
They were tough.
Yeah, they were tough.
Demanding. Wanted you to do it right.
Yeah, they expected you to put out the effort. Yeah. And they didn't want to fool with you, anybody that wasn't going to give them the effort, But they would stick with. They stuck with me, and I made a decent ball player by the time I was a senior. But so they wouldn't give up. But hopefully the reason they wouldn't give up is I was trying.
Mine was Coach Franco. I didn't fear him, but he had this game, and he called it men or mice, and he gives us this flat, sort of soccer ball type ball, and we go to the gym, the whole class. Anything goes. You could slug. I mean, you know, probably knee somebody in the groin, or just anything. And then, of course, you had to try to get that ball and go. And I did score a goal one time.
One time?
But it was actually fun. And he really enjoyed watching it.
He was tough.
Let's go from the coach to the teacher. Who did you fear most?
I feared and loved Miss Lottie K. Green. She got me through college by teaching us how to write papers. She was tough, no nonsense, but you could tell there was something about her that she loved us all, and she really. And I just went for summer school and took it, so I wouldn't have to go the whole year with it. And but she made the biggest impact. But you knew where you stood with her, and to get out of her class with a B.
Was she a teacher you stayed in touch with later in life?
No, I didn't. But, I wish I had.
Sandy?
I was not fortunate enough to have Ms. Green. Almost nobody went through R.E. Lee through the years they were there without having Ms. Green, but we had such a big class. We were the 1947 baby boomers.
Sure.
We had such a big class, Ms. Green could not teach all the senior English, so I had somebody else. And but I would think for me, the one I probably remember most, who had probably prepared me the best for college academics, was Mr. James Baskin. And I had him, I think, for both junior and senior math at Lee. And the course that our senior year at Lee that he prepared us for, I got to Georgia Tech, and that was the first quarter at Georgia Tech was the same book, same math book that Mr. Baskin used at R.E. Lee.
Leon?
I probably feared Miss Lottie K. The most, and she didn't like me. She because I chose James Baskin as star teacher, and so I think anyway. And I decided it was just too much effort to make an A. I usually made A's, but she just wanted me to do too much, and so I didn't do it all. I made B's. And so that's the one there, and but Mr. Baskin, I'm with Sandy on that. In fact, Bob Fletcher, who was a good bit younger, but he comes to me all the time and tells the story. He said, "I had Mr. Baskin, and I wasn't a very good student, and one day I just asked him who was the smartest student he ever taught. And he said, Leon Powell." And so, that really made me feel good.
Sealed it.
Let me tell you something about the grading system at R.E. Lee. It wasn't like 90 to 100 is an A. It wasn't 80 to 90, is a B. 94 to 100 was an A. 84 to 90 to 93 was a B. And the C was a bigger, you had a bigger latitude. I think probably like 72 to 84 or something like that was a C. Then you had a D that you got credit for, but not a lot. And but if you made an A at R.E. Lee,
You earned it.
yeah.
More like military standards. For those young people who reach out to us and say, "Tell me about those times, Uncle Gary." Final statement. A statement about Thomaston. For those young people. Thomaston, 1965.
Might not be heaven, but you can see it from here.
2 steps closer.
I think when we left Thomaston to go off to school in 1965 to college, the last thing on my mind was that we would ever come back to Thomaston, Georgia. But after 4 years of college and 4 years of military service, Thomaston looked pretty good, and we came back, and it has been a wonderful place for us to have raised 2 boys, and just wish that they were here and my grandchildren were in the same kind of environment that we had and grew up in. I know you can't change that's water over the dam long ago, but I was blessed.
They'll see Daddy and Granddaddy on YouTube.
Yeah.
Leon?
I had something in mind. Now it's gone. It'll come back. One thing, it was home. It is home. Like Sandy, I wasn't sure I'd ever come back. I'd gone to Georgia Tech. Unfortunately, I did drop out after 3 years. Called my friend Andy Williams, who was teaching me to live, got a job in the old underground Atlanta. We weren't 21 at the time, so we were cooking hamburgers and, well, I was 21 time I actually went to work for him. But anyway, he was cooking hamburgers at the bucket shop. And I got a job tending bar and making sandwiches at something called the Granger Deli or something like that. And so anyway, eventually they added more restaurants. I think they had 7 or 8. And I ended up being the meat buyer, and I made a lot of hamburger meat for them. They were famous for talking about a good hamburger. It's not Thomaston, but it was a half-pound patty, and that was a bucket burger. And so I was in charge of all that, and they had some steak houses, and I oversaw the cutting of the steaks and told them what to cut, how much, because it was portion control, and I could cut meat, but I could have done portion control, but anyway, they already had guys hired for that. And I sort of had to be organize the delivery. We had one truck, open bed, steak bed, 18-foot steak bed, I think, Ford, and we drove it around. I have some more stories for that for later. And anyway, that's why I did, and I was going to lay out 1 quarter, but I got having too much fun with that job and made pretty good money, some good tips and this, that, and the other, and never made it back. And then I said, well, if I'm going to be cutting meat and dealing with meat, I might as well go work for Daddy. And I did, and been here since. And my son fussed about me not graduating, and I said, well, Lee, if I hadn't come back to Thomaston, I wouldn't be with your mother, and you would not exist. So
no regrets.
No regrets. And I love Thomaston, and my son loves it. He wants to come back. I really like Pickard. I live in Pickard, Georgia.
Yeah, those are great pictures. We're going to take final break, final challenge on the pubcast. Streetlight boys, you've been great. We appreciate it very much. Hang there with us just for 1 second. To Sandy, Leon, Greg, Tony, Thomaston Streetlight boys, you know, what makes something like today special isn't the remembering, it's the sharing. Will you come back next week? But this time, we widen the circle, because these stories don't belong to just 4 rebels of R.A. Lee. They belong to a generation. Here's what we're asking you to do outside the public. Put this number in your phone right now, not later. Put it in your phone, 706-240-4293. Save it, 706-240-4293. Because next week, when we open those lines, we want to hear from you. your Matthews Field story, whether it's Matthews Field in Thomaston or whether it's Matthews Field out in Des Moines. Your homecoming night, your first car, your first job, your first time realizing the streetlight wasn't just a signal to go home. It was a signal that life was moving. Call us. Tell us what we missed. And when you finish watching today's episode, scroll down to the end of the story on 360news.com. There's a place to leave a comment. Add your memory to the record, because what we're building here isn't just a show. It's a living archive of a town that shaped our generation. And next week, we light the lamp again. And this time, we're saving you a chair to sit with the Streetlight Boys. And we thank you, friends. AMF was a parting shout. We didn't mind shouting it because we knew we'd see you again tomorrow at the Ritz, riding the bikes, fishing under the streetlight, waiting for Mama to call in for supper. AMF, in Doc's words, adios, my friends. This is Doc Granger. Thank you so much.